So the one that we need to run is main woo, as I mentioned. So run it, see, that's it, right? So let's go back to a sheet, and you can see here that the sheet was created, and we have the order ID, status, the data that I wanted, right? Short and sweet how you can connect WooCommerce to a Google Sheet using the API and app script. So the first thing that we need to do is get a consumer key and consumer secret. Super simple. I'm gonna get it from the platform. I'm gonna explain it once we get there. However, there is a trick here, and we need to get an access token using those credentials, right? So you can do it multiple ways. I coded a function for that, so don't worry about it. I'm gonna put that in the code in the description so you can just run it and get the token. And then here, this will be the code instruction, right? So as always, we have a main function that is gonna act as an orchestrator and call the other functions. In this case, it's pretty simple. It's gonna pull orders and put them in a Google Sheet, right? So this main woo is gonna call this fetcher called pull woo orders on all pages. Basically, it's gonna iterate through all the orders in my WooCommerce store and put them in a Google Sheet, right? And how do I write to a Google Sheet using this function, right? orders map to a sheet, right? So again, just an orchestrator, call this fetcher, and then pass that data to WooCommerce, to this function here to write to a sheet, right? To show you what we're going to pull to a sheet, let me go to a store so I can show you. Okay, so here we are in the store, right, in the back, and you can see everything is brand new, so I don't have anything. I just created two clients, fake clients, right, dummy clients, one client 1 and client 2, and then we have two orders here. So basically that's the data that I want to see in the spreadsheet. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna start a spreadsheet from scratch so you can see how I'm doing everything. All right, so here we're in the spreadsheet. As you can see, I don't have anything, so you can see I'm gonna make it bigger so you can see. It's gonna change the name to make this simple. YouTube, right? Let me copy this. Then we go to extensions, app script. And here in app script, same. Let me make it bigger. I think 8 is fine. Then here in app script, rename this quickly. Okay, so here we are in the code, right? So the first thing that we need to do is getting the credentials. So as always, I have a config that is gonna help us with that, like organize everything. So first we need this store. So how to get this store, right? So if we go to the platform, you go to my home, and then here you can see that in the side you get the link here, right? So this is the URL for your store. So you just copy that, right? And you just paste it here in the config. This store already have it, but you can see that it's the same pretty much. And then we need these two details here, right? Consumer key and consumer secret. So how to get them? You are here, right? Back to the platform. And then if you hover over WooCommerce, you will get this option. So you go to settings. And then here you go to advanced, the last one. And then you will see that you have options here. So we're gonna choose REST API, right? And then you can create an API key here. You can see add key here. I already have one because I was testing, but I'm gonna create another one just for this. And then you just give it a description. So I'll actually put the same number, the same name that I pulled from a spreadsheet, like that. Then you choose your email here, and then you give the permissions. In this case, I will just read data from my store, so I don't need more permissions. But if you want to, like, for example, write data to the store, maybe, I don't know, you want to upload products or something like that, you need write, right? But in this case, I just need read. Then generate API key, right? So this is the consumer key. As you can see, it's super simple to get. Put it here, and then we do the same for consumer secret, right? That's it. And then this last variable here, sheet name, this is just the name of the sheet that I wanted. When I run the code, it's gonna create that sheet and it's gonna write the products there, right? You can change this if you want. So as I mentioned, we need to get this authentication token, right? So you could do it in two ways, right? You could literally just get it once and then use it forever, or have a function that is gonna get it every time that you make a call to API. To make it simple for you guys, I call it this function here that is just gonna get the token one before it makes the call to API, right? So you don't need to worry about like getting the token. So in this case, you can see that pretty much receives the consumer key and the consumer secret, right? And then it just returns the key, right? It builds the key for you. Pretty much what it's doing is, putting this first part, the prefix basic, and then it's using base 64 and converting this in that, but that's like, you don't need to worry about it. It's gonna do it for you. And once you get it, you can make calls. Yeah, so now we go here and we're already finished with this part, right? So now let's get into a code structure. So let's start with the main Woo so we can see what the orchestrator is doing. So the main Woo is this one here. It's pretty small. And you can see that pretty much what it's doing is fetch, then maps, and then writes to a spreadsheet, right? Pretty straightforward. So first we're setting up orders here. We're gonna call our fetcher, the one that I mentioned here. And then once I get the orders, I pass them to this other function, and then I write to a sheet, right? This one here, right? So let's do that, right? Let's get the fetcher here. And this is the fetcher, right? So you can see that what it's doing is looping right through all the orders that I have, and then it's collecting all the orders, right? So you can see while it's true, pretty much, doing a loop, running until there are no more pages. And then, like returns everything in a function. So we can pass it to a function that is gonna write to a spreadsheet, right? You can see here that is the URL that it's using. So basically it's using the base URL is the store, right? You can see that is the store plus this part here. And then the cool thing about this API that is like, you don't need to, like, everything is in the URL. So you can see that what I want to get orders for which page, order how, for what date, right? In what order, like that's pretty cool. So everything you can see that is, you can understand it just by reading the URL. So you build the URL here, and then you just make a call and you get the data, then you parse it, right? These are just some guards in case we don't get data, doesn't break, just continues. And if there is an error with the API, maybe you are making calls too quickly or something, doesn't break, it just continues, right? This is just some guards, and then it just keeps iterating until it finishes and then returns everything. So that's pretty much that function. Is just, fetching data. But then we need this other function. This one is a bit more complex. And this, what it's doing is actually mapping and writing to a sheet, right? So if we go back to a main, you can see here that this function pretty much got the orders, right? So once we have the orders, now we need to write them. So that's what this function is doing here, right? So it's pretty much mapping the orders and then writes them in bulk. Why in bulk? Because it's faster, right? So you always want to use bulk if you can when you run into a spreadsheet to make everything fast. You don't want to be writing row by row, it just takes too long. So yeah, that's more efficient. So you can see here that basically what it's doing is like getting all the orders and then it's flattening them out so they can be written, right? I'm actually filtering this part here because once you start like playing with orders, like I was playing with or creating orders, fake orders, they get saved as draft. So I'm just filtering them out. I only want to see actual orders, right? And then I just map this part here, right? So you can see that I'm getting the ID, status, they created, billing. This API returns a bunch of stuff, so you can just check what it returns and then you use that. But in this case, I only want to see the status they created, right? That's the only thing that I'm interested in for this demo. And then here, pretty much what I'm doing is building like a table, right? That is gonna be like in the same format that I want to see in the spreadsheet. And this part here is pretty much like a check before writing to a sheet. I want to see, is there an actual sheet there with that name? Because remember, I'm calling this name here. If there is I'm getting the sheet, right? Then I'm checking like, is there a sheet with that name? And say like, if there's not a sheet, just create a sheet, right? And if there is a sheet already, well, this will be false, and then it will just clear the sheet, right? So this is just like to keep everything clean. And then here I'm setting some headers again, just for same as the mapping here, you can see order ID, status. And then here you just, once I build the table, I just push everything to a spreadsheet in only one call, as you can see here. That's what I mean by in bulk, right? Sweet. So that's pretty much it. You can see that it's pretty straightforward. So let's just test it and see if it actually works. So you can see, let's go back to a sheet. You can see I don't have anything here, just one sheet. So once I run the con, it's going to create one sheet, call orders, and pull everything there, right? So the one that we need to run is main Woo, as I mentioned. So run it. See, the first time that you run this, is going to pop up this. You need to grant access. So just follow the flow. Here's advanced, right? And then here you just select all, continue. And then now this is just the first time that you do it, right? That's it, right? So let's go back to a sheet, and you can see here that the sheet was created, and we have the order ID, status, the data that I wanted, right? So if I compare with the website, let's go back here, orders. Right, so I have like two clients. You can see client 2 and client 1, and I had one order that was canceled and one completed. You can see it here, cancel and completed, for a total of 40 and 35, 40 and 35. And yeah, some more details that I got. So that's pretty much how it works. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments. I will reply to them as soon as I see them.